You're listening to Mary Farfisa.
There was once a boy who lived in Sweden, who had many brothers and many sisters. His family was poor, and so his clothes were always hand-me-downs. Once, though, his mother made him a cap, all his own. Oh, it was every color of the rainbow, and it had a fine tassel on the top. He was so delighted with it when he first put it on, he decided to wear it for a walk down the road. An older boy from the village saw him walking and said, "Oh, what a fine cap you've got on your head." And then he reached down into his pocket and he pulled out a jackknife and said, "Would you trade your cap for this fold-up knife of mine?" "Oh," thought the boy, "having a real jackknife would mean I'm almost a grown man. But then, I'll be grown as soon as I can, and although having a real jackknife would be fine, it's not as good as this cap of mine. Because this cap is special, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me. It can't be bought and it can't be sold. This cap, it's worth more than gold. It's precious and priceless, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me. No, I won't trade. A little farther down the road, he met an old woman. She was bent and gnarled, and carried a straw basket over her arm. "Good day, lad," she said. "What a fine cap you've got on your head. Would you trade it for some of the sweets I've got here in my basket?" And she pulled out a big piece of candy, and she held it up to the boy. "Oh," thought the boy, "a piece of candy would be fine, but not as sweet as this cap of mine, because this cap is special, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me. It can't be bought and it can't be sold. This cap is worth more than gold. It's precious and priceless, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me. Nope, I won't trade." "Oh, if it's such a fine cap you've got, lad, why don't you take yourself to the palace of the king? He's having a ball this evening." Well, thought the boy, with a cap this fine, I should go to the palace of the king. So off he went to the palace. At the gate, the guard stopped him and said, "Who are you?" But when they saw his cap, they thought he must be special, and so they let him in. The very first to notice him was the princess. When she saw his cap, she said, "Oh, with a cap that fine, you must be special indeed. Come and sit beside me at the royal table." As soon as he was seated, she said, Now, be polite. You must take off your hat." "Oh, no," said the boy. "I couldn't do that." He thought if he took his hat off, he might lose it. "Well, wouldn't you trade your cap for a kiss from me?" Well, thought the boy, a real kiss from a real princess would be fine, but not as full of love as this cap of mine. No, I won't trade. The king happened by at that moment and overheard their conversation. He looked sternly at the boy and said, "Well, if you won't trade your cap for a kiss, perhaps you'd trade your cap for this. Surely you'd trade your hat for mine." And he reached up and took his own crown from his head and held it right up to the boy's face. The boy's eyes grew wide at all the jewels glistening in the gold, and as he clutched his cap to his head, he ran from the table and said, No, I won't trade. It's the cap my mother made for me." He ran all the way home and breathlessly told all his brothers and sisters about everything that had happened to him that day, even about the palace of the king. His oldest brother stepped forward and said, "You foolish boy, with that silly cap on your head. If you had only traded your cap for the king's crown, you could have sold the crown, and then you would have had enough money to buy yourself a sturdy pair of boots, fine clothes, and a real hat with a feather in it." "You don't understand," said the boy. "I couldn't trade. This cap, it's special, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me. It can't be bought and it can't be sold. This cap, it it's worth more than gold. And then he turned to his younger brothers and younger sisters, and he proudly said, "But maybe someday I will pass it on to someone in the family, because it's precious and priceless, you see. It's the cap my mother made for me."
Hi, I'm Cassandra. You're listening to Mary Farfisa's Outer Space Radio Theater.
This is the story about a mean old lion. It was the meanest lion in the whole jungle. When he roared with a 5-note roar. It sounded something like this. Oh, 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 oh. Well, one day that lion, he was roaring so loud, and he was roaring so long, he tired himself out. His roaring sounded like yawning. Oh, 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 oh. The lion fell fast asleep, and along came a little she-mouse. The little mouse went right up to the sleeping lion, and she said, "Whew, I've never been this close to a lion before." She looked at his long whiskers, his pointed ears, his fine mane, and she thought, wouldn't it be fun to run up this lion's back? I could jump on this lion's shoulder, I could slide down a lion's arm, do a tumble-sault off of his paw, I'd land nice and softly in the straw. He's sleeping, he'll never know I'm here. So she ran up the lion's back, she jumped on the lion's shoulder, she slid down the lion's arm, she did a tumble-sault off of his paw, she landed nice and softly in the straw. Suddenly, the lion woke up, and he looked down and he saw the little mouse before him, and whoop! He caught the little mouse between his paws, so that she had to hold on to his claws like they were the bars of a prison. "What are you going to do to me now?" she said. "I'm going to eat you," he replied. "Please don't eat me," she said. "If you let me go, I promise you I'll come back and help you someday. I would, if I could." Well, the lion thought that was the silliest thing he ever heard. "You're just a little mouse, and I am the king of this jungle. How could you ever help me?" And he started to laugh. Well, his big yellow belly started to shake like jelly, and just to keep himself from falling apart, he took his claws off of the little mouse to hold on to his belly, 'cause it shook like jelly. And that's the moment the little mouse ran away. She ran and she ran, she ran and she ran, she ran and she ran, all the way to the other side of the jungle, where she let out a sigh of relief. Whew. Well, the next day, 2 hunters came to the jungle. They were hunting big game like lions. They went to the lion's lair, that's his home. They set a huge rope snare, that's a trap. So when the lion came home that night, he didn't know that the snare was in his lair. And he lay right down in it unaware, and before he knew it, he was caught and he couldn't move a muscle, so he started to cry. Way on the other side of the jungle, the little mouse perked up her 2 ears, and she said, My, that's a lion crying. I'm not going anywhere near him. The last time I was on his side of the jungle, he almost ate me. But she heard him moaning, and she heard him wailing, and she said, I promised him I'd help him someday if I could. And a promise is a promise. So she started running back. She ran and she ran. She ran and she ran. She ran and she ran. All the way to where the lion was crying and said, Wait, don't cry anymore, lion. I'm here. I may be small, but I am smart. I'm observant. I like to look around and notice things. Why, that rope trap that's holding you tight seems complicated. But as she looked up and down and all around, she said, There's only one thick rope that's holding that whole trap together. Well, if I could just cut through that one thick rope, lion, you would be free. Well, now, I don't have scissors and I don't have a knife. I just have me. And sometimes that's the best thing to have of all. So she reached up with her tiny paws. She opened up her tiny jaws, and she began nibbling. She nibbled and 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 she nibbled, and the rope didn't break, but she kept on nibbling. She nibbled and 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 she nibbled, and soon there was just one thread which held that rope snare tight. She opened up her weary mouth and took one last bite, and the rope broke, and the lion stood up as free as he could be. He cast off the rest of the ropes that held him tight, and he looked down at that little mouse and he said, Thank you. You are the best friend I've ever had. You were here when I needed you, and you kept your promise. And with that, he made up a song about friendship. He said, You and I together, you and I forever, we'll be friends forevermore. You are always welcome at my door, 'cause you care and you share with me. That's the way a friend should be. You'll be a friend of mine till the end of time. You and I together, like two birds of a feather. You and I forevermore. And you know I'll be there when you need me. That's the way a friend should be. You'll be a friend of mine till the end of time. You'll be a friend of mine till the end of time.
Hi, I'm Eric Walden. Don't miss Mary Farfisa's Outer Space Radio Theater.
Winking, blinking, and not one night sailed off in a wooden shoe. Sailed down a river of crystal light into a sea of dew. Where are you going and what do you wish? The old moon asked the three. We've come to fish for the herring fish that swim in the beautiful sea. Nets of silver and gold have we, said winking, blinking, and nod. The old moon laughed and and sang a song as they rocked in their wooden shoe. And the wind that sped them all night long ruffled the waves of dew. The silver stars were the herring fish that live in the beautiful sea. Cast your nets wherever you wish, never afeard are we. So sang the stars to the fishermen three, winking, blinking, and nod. All night long their nets they threw to the stars and the twinkling foam, till down from the skies came the wooden shoe, bringing the fisherman home. 'Twas all so pretty, a sail it seemed, as if it could not be. And some folks thought it was a dream of sailing that beautiful sea. But I shall name you the fishermen three, winking, blinking, and nod. Winking and blinking are two little eyes, nod is the little head, and the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. Now close your eyes and dream the dream that some said could not be, and you shall see all the wonderful things as you rock in your misty sea. So goes the tale of the fishermen three, winking, blinking, and nod.